Transforming personal finance.
Some expertise experience. It should not be a malintent in terms of, just trying to get some valuation and make money in the short term, because a lot of startups do fail. 95% of startups do fail.
Training people globally.
You have to be able to do really very, very well in terms of your focus. You have to be dependable, you have to be responsible, you have to continuously keep learning in the job in order to succeed and make progress.
NewsX India A-List proudly recognizes Aswini Bajaj, CEO of Leverage Growth.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX India A-List, where we bring to you some of the finest and most reputed professionals in the country. Today, I am joined by Aswini Bajaj, the CEO of Leveraged Growth. Leveraged Growth is a niche finance-based business consultancy firm which provides a wide array of financial services and customized solutions to leading businesses. Mr. Bajaj has quite a few achievements to his name as well. His name has found mention in the International Books of Records for training the maximum number of people in personal finance. He bagged the India Education Award in 2019 and was also awarded as one of the best finance trainers in India in 2021. Aswini, thank you so much for joining us on NewsX.
My pleasure.
I want to begin by asking you, what was the defining moment that led you to choose teaching as a career? Could you share the inspiration behind this decision?
So basically, I was helping out my friends and all during college. And we used to have these seminars in college where one had to talk. So I remember one particular incident where it was an IT class, information technology, computers and all of that. And I was using an example from Digital Fortress, a book by Dan Brown, which is fiction, to connect something around encryption and talking about it. And I did a couple of batches in Kolkata, but once I moved to Delhi for my job, and I was teaching over the weekends, and I saw people double my age enjoy the classes and the lectures and everything. And I was enjoying being more in the classroom than, taking weekend getaways. And it came naturally to me. That's when I decided to move back to Kolkata and start teaching full time.
All right. Aswini, you've also achieved an impressive array of professional degrees. What fueled your passion for continuous learning and success in so many exams?
So one, to be very honest, Saraswati Ma has been very, very kind to me. And secondly, there's a lot of curiosity to know more. And I believe professional degrees and exams provide a lot of structure, sincerity and discipline, which otherwise probably a student would not be studying and, focusing so much. So I think that's something that keeps me on my toes and keep learning. Also because of my profession, since I'm into teaching and education. So it becomes very important for me to keep myself up to date.
So what would you say then? Are you a teacher or are you an entrepreneur?
I would say I'm a teacher at heart, but in practice I'm both. I think it's very important for people to choose entrepreneurship for the right and wrong reasons. So the right reasons could be you have a patent or a technology or some idea, experience in some field. And the wrong reasons could be I cannot work under a boss, or just because I want to make a lot of money, because it does not work that way. So I think I just wanted to use my skill as a teacher and my experience with almost 130, 140 plus colleges that I've guest lectured, including a couple of dozen IIMs, IITs, in fact, a batch of IAS officers as well. So I wanted to use my experience as a teacher in order to build something, and that's how entrepreneurship also happened.
And how would you say in your experience that you view career options of startups, traditional jobs and becoming an influencer? What would be your advice to young people today?
So when I talk about startups, again, as I mentioned, one has to have the right reason, whether you're providing value, you're solving a problem, you're going to be able to do something in a better way. There's some expertise experience. It should not be a malintent in terms of, just trying to get some valuation and make money in the short term, because a lot of startups do fail. 95% of startups do fail. So that is something one needs to understand. With respect to jobs, again, the point is that one has to work like an entrepreneur in the job itself, where you have to be able to do really very, very well in terms of your focus. You have to be dependable, you have to be responsible, you have to continuously keep learning in the job in order to succeed and make progress. So you can take examples like Sundar Pichai and the CXOs across Fortune 500 and Nifty 50 companies, and you'd see they're making tons of money as well. But the point is that you need to be really growing, you need to think out of the box, you need to think like an entrepreneur in a job. And when it comes to influencers, so I do not like to be categorized as an influencer. I'm a teacher. And the influencers, again, it's going to work. It's going to make a lot of money. It's going to grow the way we are looking at the trends in terms of social media. But at the same time, you have to, again, look at the probability. How many people make it to the Indian cricket team, for example, or to these actors and all that in Bollywood and all. But similarly, when you're looking at the number of people posting on YouTube, etc., the content and all, so the probability of you making it that big, you have to consider that. And second, also the point is that the barriers to entry are very, very low in terms of influencers. But for the audience, I would like to say, and for the students and professionals, be very careful in terms of what and whom you follow. So always look at the ethics, the experience, and the credibility of the person when you are taking any advice, especially when it comes to careers, finance, investments, etc.
Okay, and how has the process of making career decisions then changed over the last 10 years with the rise of artificial intelligence? What advice would you give to students today?
So I was just scribbling something. AI will replace you if your I is A. So AI is going to replace you if your intelligence is artificial. It makes even more sense today to be able to focus, to be able to go into the depth of things. So for example, when I'm teaching, I would draw the graphs myself instead of looking at a PPT, because you need to know how to do it. You need to derive formulas. For example, there's a formula in finance where we derive using an infinite GP series, valuation of a stock. Now, how do you derive is important, because when I'm applying it to a SaaS-based company, the way to look at it becomes different. So in order to outdo the AI or in order to be relevant, you have to have depth, you have to have a little broader perspective on things. So you have to read a variety of subjects, and you have to work on your social skills, your soft skills. For example, you cannot use an AI or a chat GPT or something while talking to somebody. They will not autocorrect you while you are speaking to someone. So you cannot just exactly, AI would not be able to replace you exactly that way.
Okay, Aswini, at the same time, with your experience training IIMs, IITs, IAS officers, giving TEDx talks and having 1 lakh YouTube subscribers at this point, how do you manage your online presence without getting carried away by social media? How do you really control your social media activity?
So firstly, all my social media apps are on tab and not on the phone. So even if I'm commuting, I'm either doing my work on WhatsApp or on calls, or looking at the trees on the way and kind of being a little at peace. So I do not have social media on my phone. Second is, you have to be able to use social media to your advantage. For example, I get access to people I would not have otherwise have access to. So I could be able to, get their opinions. So on a day-to-day basis, whatever experiences they are gaining and they're sharing it on social media, I have access to those. But at the same time, I need to understand the business model of social media companies. For example, Google, where you are using it for free, but they are generating ad revenue. So ultimately, they would want you to spend money and they are consuming your time. And similarly, when you're looking at, let's say, influencers, so if you pay them an X amount of money, they would promote anything. So when it comes to actors, etc., it's still fine, because they're being paid and you know that they're being paid to promote something. But at times, influencers gain your trust and then they start promoting something. It becomes a conflict of interest. So you need to understand these things better. So read a book by Cal Newport, for example, Digital Minimalism, and watch this documentary on Netflix, Social Dilemma, and you'll understand what I'm saying.
Okay, Aswini, before we let you go and wrap up this conversation, one last question to you. What do you do for your personal investments? Do you invest in startups, and how do you manage your portfolio given your expertise in finance?
So firstly, there are a lot of influencers. For example, they'll give you these 80-20 principles and all. So you spend 80% and 20% is your savings. That might work for, let's say, your income bracket of, let's say, 8 to 10 lakh rupees. But the moment you move to a 20 or a 25 or a 30, you cannot follow the same thumb rule. So you have to start understanding and reading into it. For example, a book like Psychology of Money. Second is, you need to understand what is your personal situation and circumstances, and based on that, build it. You cannot be a part-time trader, because it will be as good as being a gambler. So when you see SEBI data, Stock Exchange Board of India, you'll see 90% of people losing money in FNO and all these in the trading space. And the number of people who are able to make money more than the FD rates is very, very minimal. So you have to be a professional trader or an investor, not a part-time one. But at the same time, with inflation, with expenses going up, with our retirement savings and all that is required, it is extremely important to have a long-term outlook and make investments. So for that, maybe a mix of mutual funds and ETFs would be a very good idea, a very good place to start with. So understanding the basics of finance, the basics of investment, the basics of asset allocation is more important than looking at individual equity investments. But given my profile is in finance, I own my house, so I would like to discard or set aside, this talk where you should not be owning a house and spend on experiences, because I'm living in my house 365 days a year. That is also an experience which I want to spend on. So everything cannot be put on an Excel sheet, because the markets also, when you talk about it, we talk about something called the market sentiment. So there is a sentiment, there is a behavioral aspect that is involved. So one has to look at it practically. I own my house. The way I look at gold and jewelry particularly is a little different. So over generations, if each generation is accumulating a small amount of gold, it acts as an extreme level of emergency cash. It's not something like your 6 months emergency cash that you resort to. But say, for example, earlier we did not have these many insurances and all. And if somebody does not have the money, they would be able to sell that gold that the family has inherited and accumulated over the generations, not just years, and use it in order to take care of marriages or education, etc. at home. So that is how I look at jewelry, not as an investment. But apart from house and jewelry, the liquid investment is going to be either your PF and your debt and FDs and all, and equity. I have a larger equity chunk, and direct equity is my investments, because I have a very long-term horizon to look at. So based on that, you need to plan it out.
Okay, Aswini, thank you so much for joining us on NewsX India A-List and shedding some light on what is it that the youth of India perhaps can look at in terms of understanding what financial investment will mean in the coming years.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.